Today, Giants launched patch 1.6, and with it, two of the things on there had to deal with animals. One of them was fixed animal health and productivity calculation. The other was fixed grass eating cows. Now, I assume this was cows eating grass. So, both of these have an effect on the dairy cows and the way we were doing them. So, I thought I would do a guide and run some tests on using grass and meadows as a feeding source now. So let's get into what I used. For settings, I used normal economy, seasons turned off, and I used the $250 or $250,000 base game cattle pen. I used 1 day months, and I also used Holsteins, but there's no difference in a Holstein than the Brown Swiss. They they both get the same stats. Stats are for one cow starting at 0 months. So I just bought babies and I only used one cow in there. So if you've got a pen full, you'll need to extrapolate it out for that. The stats were taken at 8 a.m. each day. In hindsight, it might have been better to do it at midnight for some of the calculations, but I still think it holds up because most of us play that way. We sleep, we wake up at 8 during the game. So, and I ran this test for 61 months, individually feeding each one grass, meadow, hay, silage, and TMR just to see what the differences were. After doing this, I should note that all dairy cows are some things that are the same, regardless of what you feed them. They consume the same amount of food, regardless if you're feeding them hay, silage, TMR, and they use the same amount of straw, regardless of the type of food, which makes sense since it's really just bedding, but the output of manure is different. So, and they all start producing maximum milk at 12 months, even though they're not through puberty yet. They can't even breed until they're 18 months. They produce milk at 12 months, and it's the maximum amount, and it just remains steady. They have calves at 27 months, starting at 27 months, and then every 10 months after. So 27, 37, 47, and so on. And they all sell for the same amount, depending on what month, how old they are. Now, I did put a asterisk on there because there's a small caveat to that we'll get into later, but it's not that big of a deal. So one of the things that all of them from 0 to 18 months, they consume 3,459 liters of food during this period. It kind of varied by month. Obviously, the younger they are, the less they consume, but from 0 to 18 months, they consume that amount total. Then, starting at 18 months, they'll consume 350 liters per month or 4,200 liters a year. So, if you're looking to figure out how much hay you're going to need to put back for a full year, that'll give you an idea. Take that times the number of dairy cows you plan on running. As far as straw, from 0 to 18 months, they used 931 liters during this time. Again, it varied because they use less at the start, more at the end. But once you get to 18 months, it's 95 liters a month, 1,140 liters per year. Okay, now for the results of individual feeds. Before the 1.6 patch, dairy cows wouldn't gain health. You couldn't reproduce or make milk by feeding them grass or using the meadow. The meadow on this particular case worked, but it was consumed at 14 months and didn't regrow, even though I had seasons turned off. So meadows are still junk. I would recommend planting a grass field down and placing your pin over the top and selecting not to use the meadow and use the grass instead. Having said all that, there's no difference between the meadow or feeding them grass. So you can feed them grass bales, grass directly picked up off the field. So the rest of this test after that 14 months was just done with grass. Here's the little caveat I talked about before. It's month 3 before they reach 100% health. So they're close at the at month 2, they're at 98%. So if you was to sell a cow before then, they're not worth as much as they would be if they were getting fed something else. But the reason I say that's a small deal, it's a small amount of money, and chances are you're not selling cows before then. You're going to lose money. It works the similar with the babies. There again, the babies are not worth much if you're selling them. Most of the time, you're probably selling the adult and keeping the babies. So, with the meadow and the grass, from 0 to 18 month, they produced 1,030 liters of slurry. Then, once they got to 18 months, they produced 100 liters of slurry a month and 1,200 liters a year. They also produced 779 liters of manure total from 0 to 18 months. And then starting at 18 months, when they're fully mature, they'll produce 80 liters of manure a month or 960 liters a year. Uh, like I said before, at 12 plus months is when they start producing milk. If you're feeding them grass or meadow, they're going to produce 60 liters of milk a month, 720 liters a year. Now we move on to hay. If we fed them hay, they reached 100% health after 1 month. So just the maximum right off the bat. From 0 to 18 months, they produced 2,060 liters total of slurry. And then at full maturity, 18 months plus, they started producing 200 liters of slurry a month or 2,400 liters a year. Onto the manure from 0 to 18 months, they produced 779 liters total. And at 18 months plus, they produced 160 liters of manure a month or 1,920 liters a year. At 12 months, they produced 120 liters of milk a month constantly for 1,440 liters a year. You get to silage, and silage is the same as hay, which pre-patch 1.6 silage actually produced less than hay. So this has been fixed. There again, they'll have the same 100% health after a month. They still produce the 2,060 liters total slurry from 0 to 18, and they'll produce 2,400 liters a year after that, 18 months. And 779 liters of manure from 0 to 18 months total, 1,920 liters a year after they're 18 months old, and they will produce 1,440 liters of milk total a year. Now we get into the TMR, the total mixed rations fed. They also really reach 100% health after 1 month, which you would expect. And they produce the most slurry of 2,574 liters from 0 to 18 months. They also produce more slurry a year once they're 18 months and older. They produce 250 liters or 3,000 liters a year. On the manure side, they produce 1,949 liters of manure from 0 to 18 months total. And then starting at 18 months, they produce 200 liters a month for 2,400 liters a year. So at 12 plus months on the milk side, they'll produce you 150 liters of milk a month, 1,800 liters a year. Now let's take a look at some of the value. As you can see, I highlighted month 3. That's to show that if you're feeding them grass, that's the month that they'll actually catch up to the hay fed, the silage fed, and the TMR fed ones. Before that, they'll be worth slightly less. Not that big a deal because I don't see you selling many cows from 0 to 3 months age. Now they go all the way up to month 24, at which they reach maximum value for a dairy cow is $1,500. Then it remains constant from month 24 all the way to month 36, staying at that 1500. And then at month 37, it drops to 1479. And it continues to drop all the way to month 60, where they bottom out at $1,000. It will never go below 1,000. As a matter of fact, I went to month 62 just to see. Uh, it still shows the age at 60 months. So that's the bottom of the market. The only way it would go below that 1,000 is if you didn't have 100% health, if you didn't feed them, essentially. So this brings up a point. Should you be selling them? Another thing to keep in mind is, like I said before, the dairy cows will start having babies at 27th month and then every 10 months after. So even though month 37 the price has dropped, that's when it would have its second calf. You may, if you have the room, want to wait an extra month to only lose $21 value on that cow to have a baby calf and keep the calf, sell the cow. That kind of gives you an idea of the value though. So some of the conclusions is yes, after patch 1.6, dairy cows can now be raised on grass and meadows. They will produce the milk, they'll reproduce and make babies, and you can reach the maximum value. Before, the maximum value on a grass-fed cow was 600 bucks. They wouldn't even get up to that 1500. They lagged behind all the time because you weren't getting 100% health. Um, Hay and silage are also equal after the patch. Like I said before, this wasn't the case. Hay would produce more milk than silage before, but they're equal after the patch. And the numbers are in line with what you see when you're looking at a pin. When you look at a pin, you see that TMR is 100% effectiveness. Um, Hay and silage are 80%, and grass and meadow is 40%. So they've actually got that fixed to where it's working, which is why you'll see that your production is 2 times greater when you feed hay silage compared to grass, and your production is 2.5 times greater when you feed TMR compared to grass. So the other thing, like I said before, meadows are still garbage. I'm not sure if that's the way they're supposed to work. I've heard that the way a meadow's supposed to work is you're supposed to once they're depleted, you pull the cattle off and they'll regrow. I don't know of anybody that's doing this. If you've got a lot of 50, 100,000 dairy cows, are you pulling off them, moving them to a different pen till that grows back? I would recommend to plant the grass instead. Plant a grass field, put down your cattle pen over the top of it, select not to plant the meadow, and it will use the grass instead. I don't know if it'll keep up with the full lot, but it will keep coming back at least. So it will, if you're planning on using grass to feed, it will help lessen your costs. The other thing is just comment below. I'd like to know how do you run your dairy? What do you feed? Are you going to start feeding grass now? Do you normally feed silage, hay, or TMR? And how do you maintain it? Do you just put them in there and never sell a cow, or do you sell cows, the adults, babies? And if so, I'd like to know when. So put that in the comments below. And also, this took quite a while to put together, so I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.